The Dr. Ray Podcast is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio. Here's today's monologue with Dr. Ray Guarendi.
Jesus was not a good man. You heard me right. Jesus was not a good man. If that's all he was. If he were only a man, then he knew when he talked and acted like God, it was an act. He knew he wasn't God. So really, he set people up to be punished and killed, to follow him. If he truly thought he was God, but he wasn't, then he was similar to some of the people I used to assess at the state hospitals. He was crazy. He was either God, or he was something far worse. You can't get around Jesus by saying he was a good man. Although that's fascinating, because many of the intelligentsia, people at universities, folks who fancy themselves great thinkers, just declare, well, he was a good teacher, like Buddha, like a skinny Buddha, a fat Gandhi. He was a good teacher. No, he wasn't. He didn't even know his identity if he wasn't God. He was claiming to be something he wasn't. So no, there's no middle ground. As C.S. Lewis said, he didn't intend to give us a middle ground. He either is who he said he is, or he's a lot worse. He's not a normal human being. That's your choice. Now, I have seen people try to get around this conundrum by saying, well, the stuff about him thinking and talking and acting like God, his followers put that in there. They wrote it in, because when they were writing this stuff, they had to make him be a little bigger than he was. He's not just another rabbi guru getting a bunch of followers, getting thumbs up. No, we got to make him be bigger than he is, because we have any chance of overthrowing the Roman Empire. We've got to really go at this at a different angle. We're not going to throw him over militarily, so we got to figure out, how do we change heart and minds? I know what we'll do. We'll make this guy God. Now that's the thinking. I've heard that thinking. It's a nice little speculative hypothesis by people who want to essentially do away with having to make the decision regarding who Jesus was. But here's a problem with that. We have pretty good historical evidence that the apostles, almost all of them, were martyred. Why? You going to be martyred by making stuff up about a guy? You can give up your life for that? And here's another thing. We know they traveled. St. Thomas, tradition tells us he was in India. Matthew, Africa. Wait a minute. You're trying to overthrow the Roman Empire. You don't have to go to India. Why? Nothing over there. So don't go to India. What are you trying to preach? You trying to preach a lie? That this guy was God? What for? So he either is who he said he is, or you can't trust the gospel as history. You don't even have to trust it as God's word. Just trust it as history. These guys wrote down the things he said and did, and you have to say that when they wrote it down, they embellished it. Wildly embellished it. And if you say that, you have to say, like a good detective, what was their motive? Why? As far as we can tell, everything we can tell, these guys were pretty faithful Jews. So for them to declare that some guy was God, when they knew he wasn't, But they jeopardized their whole soul. They would jeopardize their eternal destiny. Jews didn't do that. Jews were fiercely monotheistic. He didn't go saying, oh yeah, by the way, this guy's the son of God. Yeah, that's it. We'll make him a son of God. That's what we'll do. This makes no sense. None. Why would they not only jeopardize their eternal destiny, their souls, but their lives? For what? To make up a bunch of stuff about this guy? But here's the other problem you have. Let's just say he was crazy. Okay. Then let's look at what he said. Take away all the stuff that was saying he was God, acting as he was God, talking like he's God. Take all that away. Just take away his teachings, his parables. I'm a shrink. I've read them many times. Not because I'm such a wonderful Bible scholar, but because I go to Mass. And if you go to Mass for 3 years, you pretty much hear the whole gospel. So there's not a whiff of craziness in what he talked about. Nothing. You would expect, well, if he's crazy, okay, then this whole idea that I'm God is going to spill over into stuff he says about how to live your life. But it didn't. The stuff he said about how to live your life is sublime. It makes total sense. And, whether psychology admits it or not, read my book, Jesus the Master Psychologist, research supports the kind of stuff Jesus said for a more contented, stable, peace-filled living. Well, where's the craziness in his teaching then? Is this craziness only circumscribed in his self-identity? If you don't know who you are really crazy. Because that is at the core of reality. Who are you? And if Jesus said, well, I'm God, that's who I am, well, then he's crazy. If he's not God. Or he's very calculating if he knew he was a God. And he figured, I got to get some followers. What's the best way to do this? But even at that doesn't make any sense. See, there's so much that doesn't make any sense. Because he's not going to get followers by saying he's God when he's in a fierce Jewish community who says our God is one. Wait a minute. Why would you try to convince them otherwise? See, the only way that he could convince them otherwise is he had to show it. He had to do things that they couldn't account for. Miracles, signs, wonders, where they said, how does he do this? He's claiming this, but yet he can do this. Even his enemies knew that. Even his enemies said, yeah, we'll admit you do it, but you do it through the power of Satan. That's how you do it. And, of course, Jesus, as always, has a wonderful response. A couple sentences, he just shoots them down. Don't let anybody tell your kids if they go to college, or anybody you talk to who says, well, I'll admit Jesus was a good man. He was a good teacher. He had a lot of nice ideas about how to live life. You just look at him and you say, well, you must not know much about the Gospels at all then. Because that's not even a possibility. He can't have been just a good man.
More of Dr. Ray's Monologues can be found on his website, drray.com. Monologues as well as full-length programs of The Doctor Is In can be heard at AveMariaRadio.net and EWTN.com/radio.